Tom?
Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
How's your life going?
Good. Actually, let me start with a story.
Yeah.
Now that you asked that question, because I actually wanted to get to it, but I didn't know if I would.
Yeah.
And it has to do with today's topic. So it actually works out perfect.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask you how your life is going. I just got back from my first ski tour,
Oh, tour meaning what?
meaning backcountry.
Oh, okay.
You put these skins on it's a
Yep.
split board, and then you hike up a mountain, and then you put it together, and then you go down.
On trails or?
No trails.
Okay.
It's all, you're kind of figuring it out as you go.
Just like a ski area where you have new snow, new.
Yeah. Untouched. Yeah. So you're kind of figuring it out. And I've never done anything like that before. We had friends that knew like avalanche risk and kind of took the lead on making sure everything was completely safe before we'd go while we were going.
Where did you go?
We went to Vail Pass and we stayed at a cabin off of Vail Pass, a few miles in.
Up on the top.
Yeah, way up there.
I've been there.
Yeah. It's called
in the part
Jay's
of the-
Cabin.
Yep.
Yeah,
And it's a part of the Colorado hut
that's right.
thing.
There's a whole bunch of other huts there.
Yep.
Yeah. And so every day we'd get up and we'd have some kind of trip that we had planned out for the day. And then I got crazy sunburnt because I didn't put enough sunscreen on, and
There's a lot of sun up there.
there's a lot of sun up there. And you're higher up, and then it bounces off the snow. So like you get sunburnt in places you never thought you'd get sunburnt. But it was really fun. And it tied into today's conversation, which I want to talk about resilience. But let me pitch you the question on how you're doing.
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I'm getting ready to take a week off and go to Florida to
Nice.
Destin.
Oh,
Which,
my wife and I have been wanting to go to Destin.
Well, we're told that it's really a great place,
Yeah.
great beaches and so on. We've always been on the other side of Florida.
Okay. Yep.
Ocean. So,
So we
but
good.
you had mentioned even resilience,
Yeah.
and a part of resilience for me, and I think most people, is taking breaks. And
Yeah.
it's back to that ratchet theory.
Yeah.
I think we went through that.
We've talked about that on this episode,
And
on this
so
podcast.
the break is the ratchet. You go hard and then,
Yeah.
and so planning and this, breaks is a big part of it. And both the process itself can be rejuvenating just because it's in the abstract and you imagine, let's do this.
Yeah.
And then the actual execution can be not always. I mean, it's risky because it could suck.
Yeah.
And it could be bad stuff happen. But
For sure.
anyway, we're anticipating none of that.
Hopefully it's a relaxing
Yeah.
vacation.
And if
Yeah.
it's not good, we'll just do it on here and we'll erase it. And do it
That's
over.
right.
Like a Truman Show.
That's right.
You just.
Yeah.
So, but I'm doing good. I've had a bunch of funky tax stuff
Yeah.
in this last month or so from my accountant and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's falls into that yucky stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, but having said that, I'm doing good.
Good.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah. First I wanted to define resilience. So I want to talk all about resilience.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You started by just saying you want to tell a story. Was there more to that story that you wanted to tell? Because I have a way of shortening your story and lengthening mine. So you don't need to make anything up, but
No, I thought it was enjoyable. I had to change my perspective, which maybe we talk about that in the resilience conversation. In that, I think people go into backcountry skiing with the mindset that they're going to do a lot of skiing, and that is just not the case. You hike 95% of the time, and you ski 5% of it. But you go in thinking you're going to do a lot of that.
Yeah.
You're going to do a lot of skiing, and you're going to get these awesome lines and.
yeah.
Oh, it's going to be such bliss and you're going to just enjoy it, but you don't anticipate the 8 miles of just trudging up a mountain until you get there and then you get to enjoy it for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's a very different mindset. I think I learned through that. It's like I have to see this more like hiking and less like skiing. And I love hiking.
Yeah.
But if I go into this thinking I'm going to be skiing a lot, I'm going to be really disappointed, and I'd probably get really burned out. Like I'll not want to do it,
Yeah.
and it'll be less enjoyable to me because my perception is that I'm going to do a lot of skiing and I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the pieces in general is expectations. Incorrect expectations or incongruent. That is have a great effect on your life, but in this case, that's a metaphor. I think of your life is you think it's going to be one way, and this is really going to be fun, and then it turns out it wasn't what we thought, and so a lot of even resilience tying into that thing comes from mid-course adjustment. One of the analogies that I like to use is of sailing.
Yeah.
And sailing is all about mid-course adjustments. And you have no control over the wind, but you have control over how you set your sails. And a skilled sailor can tack, which is basically taking miraculously, and if you don't understand the physics, you're actually letting the wind blow you into itself.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the resilience idea. If your expectation, and what I heard you saying, is one of the things that made it harder even, and less enjoyable was the expectation.
Yeah. Yep.
I have one of my clients that he's a big skier, and he goes to the Bugaboos every year.
What is that?
Bugaboos. It's in British Columbia.
Okay.
It's helicopter skiing.
Oh, cool.
And,
okay, dang.
They go, like he was there for a week, and they had 100,000 vertical feet. That's how they do it. But they also ski in the glades, and they, it's just more like what you're imagining.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting, and it's dangerous, and all of that. But at the end of the day, you're exhausted.
Right.
But he knows, this is his fourth year that he's done it, so he knows really kind of what to expect. He's not thinking he's going to do this or that.
Right.
And so I think that's a big, like you said, a big part of just metaphorically in reality is what'd you think this was going to be like? And some of it you don't know. Some of the thing that makes life exciting is that you don't know.
Right.
It's the surprises. It's not just the predicted part. And that's an interesting thing on an aside. In today's world, which is so digitally oriented, people get addicted to the digital version, which you can adjust and make it however you want, and spend very little time analyzing and thinking about the non-digital, which is real life.
Right, yeah.
And so you can get, because the digital you have control over. And you can, if you don't like it, you delete it, or if you redo it. In life, you go, oh, that sucks, but there's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
So back to the surprise. And so I didn't want to overshoot your story, but you know me, the way I'm wired.
You're like, what happened? What was the end? It was a unique experience, but I think that's what triggered it for me. I think being on that trip triggered the idea of resilience. Mindset was a part of it. But then I also just started thinking about, like, what is resilience? Because I remember, maybe I'll do a little bit of a shout out. I watched this YouTube channel. They're called Mediocre Amateurs. Kind of a group of guys in there. I think they're like late 30s, 40s, early 40s. But they're doing this all the time. And they're like relentless in their pursuit of getting to the top of these summits. And they look like they do it with ease. I mean, they do it so often now that it's like very different in terms of the amount of energy they exert than I would on these kind of trips. But they also have times where it's like they have to push through mental block or physical obstacles, and it is a huge challenge. And so I guess I'd be really curious to see your definition, like what resilience is. It's like, is that obsession? Is there grit? Is there just like the just sheer will to just push through whatever's in front? Like, what is that? And I guess, how can we take that concept and apply it to leadership in a healthy way? Because I think I've seen resilience construed in unhealthy ways. Like, it's pitched as resilience, but it's really just like an unhealthy obsession that leads to burnout or something like that.
Well, I think what comes to mind is sort of, it's kind of as a definition to start with, that it's the ability to navigate failure.
Oh, that's good.
Because all of those guys you just talked about, one of the reasons they were good at it is there's not one of them that has not more times than not failed. And so it's how you navigate the failure. You can either be discouraged and quit, or you can learn from it, or you can, but there again, it's perspective. So the resilience is fueled by perspective. So the ability to get back up, and what I call my Chumbawamba theology. I don't know if you know
Say it again.
Chumbawamba.
No, I don't know.
Chumbawamba was a one-hit wonder back in the 90s.
Okay.
And the song it's an Irish drinking song.
Okay.
But it was very simple, and it says, I get knocked down, but I get up again. I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Yeah.
And that's the song.
Yeah.
And so that's why I call it Chumbawamba theology. And it's huge. And it's both from just a general leadership. If you can't get back up again, then you're out. So if you look at a boxing analogy, you get knocked down, but you get up again. Now, sometimes you get knocked down so hard you can't get up again. And so then resilience becomes more protracted. You still may be resilient, but not as quickly. It might be an athlete like, whoever, that takes a long time to recover. But and you don't even see his progress. I have a friend who has worked for years in Craig Hospital, of which I don't know if you know that, but it's they just work with spinal cord stuff, so people are paralyzed, and it's just, and there's no hope. I mean, for it getting fixed. What the whole thing is helping them stay in the game. And the resilience is there in that case. It's years long. As opposed, but it's both.
Right.
So the longer recovery for navigating a failure might come, a year from now, where you actually see the benefit of it. Or it may be at a year you're thinking you would have a benefit, and there's nothing. And then, so now what? So in terms of leadership, I think you've seen the thing, the plaque on my desk when we've been over there, that's been Henry now, and he said the great myth of leadership is to think that you can lead someone out of the desert when you've never been there yourself. And so resilience is sort of also, it's not only the task, it's the reward. When you stay in it, and that's really, from a Christian standpoint, that's the perspective. Our lives are to be lived now, but with an eye to the future. And so
I mean, I want to talk about Jesus and Paul, who I would look at and attribute a very resilient life. Both of them had hope. How does hope play in the concept of resilience? Because you even talked about the idea of these patients that have these unbelievable ailments that they have to navigate potentially for years. I'd imagine hope to some degree has to be factored in terms of how resilience is played out.
Well, I think hope in a simple way, and it talks about in Hebrews 11, that it's trust in the unseen, and the future of it. So it's concrete in your mind as to what it's going to be, but then it's abstract in actually executing it. So, and there's a big difference, like in the book Necessary Endings, by Henry Cloud. He talks about the differences between wishing and hoping.
Yeah.
Wishing is just not founded on anything. It's not a future thing that's got evidence. And in Hebrews 11, it talks about hope is the evidence of the things that you imagine.
Yeah.
And so when he's talking about it in Necessary Endings, hope, when you have hope, you see some inkling. So the guys say he's an alcoholic, and you hope that he's going to get better, but you haven't seen any indication. You don't see any effort on his part, and it's now X amount of years into it. Now you're moving from hope into wishing, and it's a fine line in some ways, but the wishing is what we tend to do. We wish this would happen. I wish that I would get $1 million in the morning.
Sure.
That's great, but there's no evidence. You're not hoping.
Yeah.
Now, ironically, the guys at Craig Hospital, they have hope, because one of the things that, like, my friend does and the staff there, is they engender hope, anticipating what can happen.
Yeah.
It may not happen, and they're very straightforward, not about Pollyannish, well, if you just do this, it's going to be fine. But what they often find is there's the development of that person going on, and as they work with that person themselves, that's a big challenge for these guys, the staff. How do you not lose hope?
Yeah.
When you know the kind of the science of it, and you know that humanly speaking and even scientifically speaking, there is no hope. And that's one thing we have as followers of Jesus, is that our hope is based on him and his promises, but not just his promises in abstract, but the promise that we will see him and we will be reunited with him and in the resurrection. And that's a big part of all of those things. Resilience. How do you bounce back? And you talk about Paul and in particular, or if you read his accounts in the Bible, I mean, he got the stew knocked out of him.
Oh yeah.
Everything you can imagine. And I'm sure he wasn't just kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but he is a picture of resilience. But it's how he navigated it. I mean, literally, when he's talking about going to Rome and he's in the boat and he's shipwrecked. I mean, he's thinking on his feet. Let's throw this stuff overboard. Let's do this. And so leadership, that's a big part, is being able to differentiate from the situation, and to be, as Friedman says, be a non-anxious presence. In the middle of it.
It's interesting you mentioned Paul's, like, he was still very active. Hope isn't a passive thing. But I think sometimes that could be
good point.
The perception of hope. It's like, I'm just going to sit back and hope that this thing happens, which to your point might be wishing.
And
at that point.
Right, that's wishing. Hope is based on evidence. And that's just like faith. The person that isn't familiar with Jesus or have a relationship with him see faith as an abstraction. But faith is actually built on evidence. It's not a blind leap.
Right.
It's actually, if you do the math, it's, in my opinion, it's insurmountable. Just like if you'd say, well, I'm going to, like a mathematician will try to solve it with math. I can't even fathom that. I mean, we get all quadratic equations and,
Right. Yeah.
Quantum physics. And, I have my cell phone, as you know, and
Yeah.
I can almost always answer it or turn it off,
Yeah.
but not always.
Right. Right.
So, but again, looking at the faith as being built on evidence. In fact, there's a song that is sung, I don't know if they still sing it, but it's "My faith is built on nothing less, basically, than the rock."
Yeah.
And the rock is Jesus. So, but it's not just a rock; it's faith in the solidarity of that, which gives me the confidence. My faith gives me the confidence to step out.
Yeah, I want to tie that. That's a great point. The question I was going to ask, but you were literally, I think you just kind of embodied that, is like, what does hope really do to the human spirit in resilience? There's a piece there with confidence. If you're, like firmly grounded hope gives you kind of like an unnatural confidence to endure things that most humans will not.
Yeah.
What else do you think is there?
With faith?
With hope, as it were, like what it does to the human spirit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's as good as the object of your confidence. It's not categorically the case. So if I have faith, or if I hope that the Denver Nuggets will win the NBA championship again, based on the way they've been playing, that would be wishing. But if I said I think they're a good shot based on their performance, but so what it does is it gives you, it intersects with all these. Resilience is one of the kind of the tools that, or you can switch them in and out, but having hope gives you the ability to get back up again.
Sure. Yeah.
If you have no hope, and that's where, again, the whole notion of how we live our lives, like, for example, when it comes to something like depression.
Yeah.
Depression generally is a product of losing hope. There's no hope for the future. And so that's what it feels like. And it's like a dark hole. But then, so it's kind of the opposite of hope. I mean, when you lose hope, then it affects everything else, resilience, faith. So, but then you can rewind it and you can go, I've got faith that Jesus is who he said he was, or that, he will do this or that. And therefore I have hope.
Yeah.
My hope is built on his performance and promise, etc.
Yeah, there's this interesting, you might know this story. I remember reading this in I forget what the book was called, but there was this there's this Marine that was captured. So he was in a POW camp, and he was there for I think it was like 4 or 5 years. And there's a lot of people that came through.
Is that the guy in Fort Collins?
I don't know. I can't remember.
It's called the something effect. I can't think of his name.
There was something coined after him because of this.
Right. Yeah, it's maybe my brain will be resilient here in a second, but
it was essentially right. He saw a lot of people come through who had hope that they were going to get out that Christmas.
Yeah.
And then Christmas came and left, and because their hope was in a position of, it just got shattered, it got broken.
Yeah.
They lost all will to live, and they ultimately, a lot of them passed away.
Yeah.
But he was resilient, not because he didn't have hope, he just had hope that was placed correctly.
Yes.
Which is so interesting, because the more I look at hope and wishing, there's such a fine line between the two.
Yeah.
Both of them had hope in the exact same thing, that they would get out.
Yeah.
But they had different expectations of that hope.
Well, I think part of it is what we're saying. It's what is your hope based on?
Yes.
And so he it's driving me crazy. I can't think of his name.
We're gonna have to look it up after this.
But in fact, anyway, but he was realistic,
Yes.
and so he just took it step by step. He wouldn't be thinking, if I can just make it to Christmas. He was thinking, I probably won't make it, but I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so because with the other guys, those milestones would come and go.
Yes.
They're just holding on. At Christmas, I think I heard that we're going to be let out.
Yes.
There was no evidence for that,
Right.
but it was just sort of wishing and so on. And then he would go, he was not up or down.
Yeah, right.
He would just go, there's a good chance I'm not going to make this. That's probably realistic. So therefore, how do I live today?
Yeah.
Or there's a good chance that I will make it. And so how do I live for today?
Yeah, right. That is such, the object of your faith or your hope, to what you're saying, it is so indicative of the type of resilience you'll end up having.
Yep.
Yeah, which is crazy.
And one of them, I don't know if I called it I don't know what I called it. Pet peeve comes to mind, but about that whole notion of if you just have enough faith that,
that's like raw willpower. Yeah.
And then correlated to that is this idea of even the way the person describes their relationship with God. They say, if it hadn't have been for my faith, I don't know that I could have, resisted it.
Yeah.
But and I want to say, that's the fine line department, because God tells us to pray, and by faith He did this, but on the other hand, to say, my faith, it's like I've got it in my back pocket. It's one of my many tools, and it's my best tool. But it's about me. It's my faith.
Yeah.
And I want to say the faith is only as good as its object. You can have faith, and this was a bit of the effect.
What was it?
I can't get it yet. The guy from he was
whoever that guy was.
Vietnam guy, and he lives in Fort Collins, and he goes around.
We're gonna remember
about it. Yeah,
at the end of this episode, we'll
tune in next week.
Yeah, we'll have it
when we have access to a Google. Right in the middle, because if we weren't taping this or whatever the heck we're doing with it, we would have our thing out going.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have that.
Yeah.
We're
doing it live.
All of our armor's off.
That's right.
But back to faith is only as good as its object. If faith gets removed and becomes something in itself, it doesn't have an existence other than being exercised. It's a description of a transaction or an activity of a human brain.
Yeah.
And it's different than just kind of having somebody repeat something over and over again. And so now I believe it because I just say it over and over again. But I can say it over and over again, but it's as good as its object.
Yeah.
If you put your faith in an untrustworthy thing, your faith is not going to do you any good. It might temporarily because you think it's like wishing. So it's our emphasis should be more on God is faithful.
Yeah.
And He does what He says He's going to do. Therefore, I am going to trust Him. Not, boy, it's a good thing I've got my faith here. Because and so, but it's tricky because sometimes when people say that, that's why it bugs me. I think they think that that's accurate.
Yeah, yeah.
But the sad thing about it is it leads to discouragement. Because I trusted you, God. So this is another piece of it. You can have the right God, but the wrong picture of Him.
Yeah, or expectation.
Yeah,
totally.
I'm trusting God that if I pray hard enough, that I will get this outcome. And Well, that's not the way it works.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't mean that you might not get the outcome, but so we're in the habit of making, I forget who said this, but it's a common cliche that in the beginning God created man, and man returned the action. He made God into he made himself into God and made God into man.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So that's an ongoing.
Yeah.
All of those things, by the way, lest anybody think we're just wondering, from my perspective, are all connected.
Certainly.
When you talk about resilience, what allows you to be resilient, to get back up again for time after time, it's faith in God who promises to, and then how do you look at God? What is the evidence? What does he promise? Does he promise that anytime you want something, you can get it? You know, it's hard because sometimes he says, just ask, then you shall receive. Knock and the door will be open. But then you're knocking, and I've been knocked down, and I don't now both Monty Python, do you know Monty Python?
Yeah.
The famous one where his arms are cut off.
Yeah, he's still going. It's just a flesh wound, I think is the famous quote there. Yeah.
Right. And so that would be a picture.
That's resilience.
Of
some really wacky resilience.
Oh, yeah. Well, Monty Python is, I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah, very funny. I'm curious with, when you look at leadership, what is the difference between a leader who has hope in God versus leader who has hope in themselves? Because if we're going to make the connection now that our object of hope directly impacts our ability to be resilient, how do you see those two leaders ending up?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think on the surface anyway, that the one without God is basically, you can be a leader, but leading in the wrong direction, or leading. So if your hope in leading and having confidence and so on is strictly on your own ability to accomplish it, which, by the way, doesn't mean that you can't have both.
Sure.
You can have that trust and that faith, but at different times. If I ultimately am trusting my ability to pull this off, maybe the nature of the task isn't great enough that it is where I need, God. So I don't, like, for example, when I wake up in the morning, I don't have this great faith moment that somehow I can get out of bed,
right,
and get dressed.
Yeah, right.
And I could say, it's my faith that allows me to get. Well, no, you ought to be able to do that anyway.
Sure.
Without. But even at that, faith is like it's in the warp and the woof of the tapestry, because even putting on your clothes, all right, you have faith that your zipper is going to work.
Sure.
You have faith that your pants aren't going to fall down.
Right.
I mean, why? Because you've got evidence. You've seen it. You've done it every day. So they're intertwined. So as a leader, leading can be it's just a skill in some ways, where that you can, like Adolf Hitler was a great leader. And depending on how you look at it, but most people think of leadership as moving people to something that they don't want to do, or to influence, to say, it's outcome oriented. I'm leading you to accomplish what I want you to do. That's one theory of that, which I can objectively say that can work in the sense of superficial. But I think for us, for one who is depending on Jesus, he makes it real clear what leadership is like. And he says, your job is to be like me, who did not come to be served, but came to serve. So that's a big difference between servant leadership and just leadership. They're not antithetical, but the servant leader the object is for me to serve you, and ultimately in serving you, I'm serving God. So if you don't have a picture of that, so like in Colossians 3, it says, whatever you do, put your whole heart and soul into it. Why? Knowing that your real reward will come from your heavenly master, not your earthly master. So how do what's my motivation to lead? So back to your question, what's the difference between, and the difference can be nothing, or it can be everything, depending on the situation. In other words, I can be a great leader in something without God, and I can be a bad leader with God. So there's some of that I think gets intermingled. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to wrap my head around it too, in terms of like, is there a real clear distinction between the two? If it feels like if you have a firm hope in the things that God is promising, you have potentially the ability to get back up and be more resilient. I don't know. If your hope is only in your own self, I think maybe we're getting into a conversation at that point about like willpower. Like, how much can I just push through?
Well, when it talks about in Galatians, the fruit of the Spirit, and the fruit of the Spirit means that it's the result of the Spirit.
Right.
Those are not things that you strive for. So love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness. Everybody kind of can think about those. But the last one is self-control. Well, what is self-control? It's willpower.
Yeah.
And so one of the fruit of trusting God is the results of one of the apple or the pear or is your ability to rule your own life in subjection to the ultimate ruler. So God doesn't just say, just sit in the corner and I'll be like a puppet for you. He gives us responsibility for our life. And so like in Colossians, it says, put off the old man, put on the new. What does that mean? What role does willpower play in that? Well, we tend to think we're going to wake up in the morning and now we're more patient. If I just pray for patience, or I pray for love, and so on. But he says, he challenged, this is Paul speaking, take off the old, stop, and he says, stop doing that.
Right.
Like in Isaiah 1, God is talking about, he said, I created my children, you're my children, and I did this, and you totally rebelled against me. And as a father, basically, Jesus and the Father were failures, is what he's saying. We did everything we could to help you be who you are, and you keep on resisting it. And then he culminates by saying, stop doing wrong and start doing right. And we shall sit down together and reason. Okay, so who's he talking to?
Right.
He's talking to us. When he says take the old man and off, and in the context, he says all these things you're doing, they're an abomination to the Lord. Quit doing those. It's not like, well, go ahead and keep lying and fornicating and blah, blah, blah. And, when you go to bed at night, just kind of throw up a little anti-fornication prayer. And I think you'll find that, all of a sudden, women aren't important. or whatever the
Yeah, right.
issue. But the point is that we are called to participate and to lead.
Yeah.
And this is Friedman's big thing, and I can't remember we talked about it, but that if you can't lead yourself, how are you going to lead anybody else?
Right.
It's much easier to lead other people because then you can do it and you go home at night. Boom, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my world, which a lot of what I do is consulting as well as coaching, but the consulting piece is where I'm actually encouraging certain behavior and certain responses.
Yeah.
One of the nice things about being a consultant versus being a practitioner, so I spent 50 years of my life as a pastor and basically helping people navigate, but then I had to navigate it myself. When you're a consultant, you say, here's what's true, here's what you need to do.
Yeah.
See ya.
Right.
Now you have my number, or we'll come back again in a month. Or,
Yeah.
God doesn't work. He sort of, the way he works in that is he tells us, he gives us guidance, but he doesn't do it for us. You know, a great picture of
Right.
that is Lazarus when he was called forth, I thought called first, but it turns out he's called forth, out of the grave.
Yeah.
And so Jesus did something that he couldn't, that Lazarus couldn't do. And that was move the rock.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you'd think, well, okay, job done. But then he says to the people that are there, he's standing there wrapped up like a mummy.
Right.
He says to those people, unwrap him so that he might be free. Well, he just came back from death, which is freedom, but he's still bound. Still bound by the grave clothes. And so that shows also the need for community. You know,
Yeah.
that we're in it together.
Yeah.
God's plan was not just to go around and heal people or to raise them from the dead. It's always like even the miracles or the things that Jesus does, it's almost always in the context of a community.
Yeah.
You know, he does it, and then he says, "Go, don't tell the rulers," but there's people around. There's, you know, very few. So anyway, that's all connected.
Yeah. Yeah, the community piece is super interesting. I think if I look at some of the most amazing human feats in history, it's often done with some variance of a team or a community. Very, very rarely is it purely a solo endeavor.
Yeah.
Even if there was a team component and then a solo component.
Yeah.
There's some communal aspect of either helping someone prepare to be resilient or helping someone through a challenge, which in that instance, they are acting as the resilient party, encouraging resilience to the person who's really
That's a good
wrestling
point.
through it.
We're not in it alone. I mean, by design, by the way. God's design is for us to be in a body. And you think of Paul's picture of it, he calls it the body of Christ, that we are the body of Christ, and that God exercises his will through what? Primarily people. And what kind of people? People who know him and trust in him. But sometimes, like in the Old Testament where Balaam is this guy that's going to bless this foreign leader, and God tells him not to do it, and he does it anyway. You remember? So the messenger ultimately he wouldn't pay attention to. So the donkey that he was riding on spoke to him, and so God will use a donkey if he needs to, but his plan is for us to grow with each other.
Yes.
In Ephesians 5 in particular, that whole in 4 and 5, where he talks about you are the body of Christ, and he talks about it's different parts. You know, the body isn't just a head, and he said a lot of the parts of the body, like the heart, the liver, the kidneys, no one ever sees, but they're actually the most important. So therefore, when you're together, make sure you honor the heart and So all of those, again, they're designed to, it's not just God's random plan to restore man.
Yeah.
There is a design to it.
Yeah.
And he gives it to us.
Yeah.
And so here's how he wants us, for our sake, to pray. Here's how we live together in community. Here's how.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'd maybe this is too bold of a claim, but it's almost like some of the least resilient people are those that are most isolated. And sometimes that's used manipulatively. I think of like,
good point.
like even in like jail settings or right as form of punishment, right? You isolate somebody. That's a really quick way to get somebody incredibly depressed and just giving up on life.
To get them isolated.
Lose resilience, is to isolate them. Yeah, community is actually so it's really interesting. There's hope, the object of your hope being a foundational piece to resilience. There's community, right? The right people to encourage you to, pointing you in the right direction, helping you through the right things. I want to come back to, because I've always had such a hard time with the idea of, I want to go back to willpower and like, I guess another, I don't know if this is synonymous, but I'd say grit might be semi-synonymous with the idea of willpower. I don't really know what that is. Is that innate? Do people have different levels of willpower? Is it just discipline? Does that build willpower? Like, what is that? What is willpower? What is grit? How does it play into resilience?
Well, that's a good question. In fact, a good friend of mine, Rick Lawrence, I don't know if you know him, but he's an author. His most recent book was entitled Grit.
Really? Okay.
And the whole book is dealing with that question.
Interesting.
But I think in a smaller setting or piece, it's more a characteristic than, it's more describing something that's happened than something that you carry with you, and now you pull out the grit thing. So
what do you mean?
Okay, so exercising your faith may require grit.
Okay.
Because, and what is grit? It means, it means a lot of things, but in that context, it means kind of getting dirty. It means getting involved in it. So let's say God is calling me to minister to guys under the overpasses.
Okay.
That are just an anathema. It just drives you crazy. What should I do? What should I do? Sometimes it's, if God's calling is all over the place, but it may say, you know what? I want you to get in the middle of that, and it's going to be ugly, and it's going to be confusing. But somehow, and back with the cowboy days, John Wayne, True Grit was the name of the movie.
Yeah.
And basically what that represented was just tough.
Just toughness.
Tough but tough like a rancher tough.
Yes. Yeah.
You're out there with the cows and it's snowing and who's gonna do it? I'll do it.
Yeah.
And there's definitely some of that involved, but again, it's not something by itself. It's something that's a result of something on your inside. It's a resolve that's saying, it's hard, but I'm going to do it anyway. And so it's a character trait as well.
Yeah.
And so my brain isn't working. I can't remember, but he's basically one of the characters in the Old Testament. But he says, "Send me." Who can go?
Oh yeah.
I think it's Elijah or.
Yes. Gosh, who is that?
I don't know. I think it's
we're
Isaiah.
2 for 2. Oh, we're 0 for 2 right now.
Yeah, I think it's Isaiah. And Isaiah was the one that was at Fort Collins, if I remember.
That's right. Yeah.
I get it.
There you go. We're connecting.
So he's standing there and saying, "Who's going to do it?"
Yeah,
he says, "Send me."
Yeah.
And in many ways, some of the propaganda pieces, not propaganda in a negative, just messages that are sent in a way that impact you. the Marine recruitment were looking for a few good men. You could substitute grit into that because the whole appeal was if you don't have that toughness and that resilience and that hope and all of those things, you need all of those to execute your grit. Shackleton, who, in fact, that's the guy.
I think that's the guy.
That's the guy.
Now we're 1 for 2.
Yeah.
We're going to be 2 for 2. I think it is
But
Isaiah.
it's funny because I was thinking of the book, Endurance.
Yeah.
Do you know that book?
No.
It's phenomenal, but it's this true story. Shackleton he was exploring Antarctica, and he recruited these guys for his
I know the story now.
his trip,
Yes.
and he advertised basically, I want people who don't need any kind of, all this stuff. That you would normally eliminate everybody.
Yeah.
But the crew were all men of grit, but it took Shackleton's leadership, because what happened is everything froze around this boat, and it broke it and crashed it, and but then he led a group out, and et cetera.
Yeah. The other group had to stay.
Yeah,
And hope.
yeah, he had hope.
That's the only way they could stay alive. Yeah.
And he looked at people who, grit was something that was already developed in them.
Yes.
That's what he was looking. It wasn't something you could apply,
Right.
and you couldn't. You said, "Well, give me some theories of grit. That'll really come in handy later."
Right.
No,
They had it.
In football terms, nowadays it's a new use, but they call them dogs. Guys, we want some dogs on
Oh, sure. Okay.
on the team.
Yeah.
Meaning, dogs are tougher than
Yeah.
nails.
Yeah.
That'll have grit.
Is that a character thing, or can you develop that?
Well, I think you can develop your character.
Which then subsequently develops grit?
Yeah, they're together.
Okay.
Sometimes you don't know what you have, whether you have grit until it gets tested.
Right.
So you may be going along, you're fine, you don't need anything, but then you see a wreck on the side of the road, and you see a person trapped inside, and the car's on fire, and so now all of a sudden you're just instinctively, you're in there, you're trying to pull it out, and there's grit, and now your arm is gone, but it's the ability to kind of also to do a job and stay with it.
Yeah.
I think a bit another picture of the guy that's stuck. He was climbing and got his arm stuck in the rocks.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
he had to cut off his arm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's grit,
Yeah.
but it's not maybe something that he would have looked for. Or another picture, a great picture of this. We just watched this the other night. Is Everest.
Yes.
Did you see that?
I've seen that.
I mean, now that's grit.
Yeah.
So if you're going to climb Everest, you better have grit.
Oh, yeah.
Because what does that mean? It means to be able to face a hard situation and go after it.
Yes.
It's not passive. This is good. It may take my leg,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I'm going to do it.
I like that definition of grit. The ability to face hardship and just keep. Jesus had grit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
recommend Rick's book
Yeah.
if you want to find out more about that.
Yeah,
He does a
yeah.
great job.
One of the last factors of resilience that comes to mind that I want to talk about. And I like that we've covered a lot. This is cool. Yeah, we've covered hope, we've covered community, we've covered willpower or grit. Obsession. There's this really popular influencer right now. His name is, I might butcher his last name. It's like Alex Hormozi.
Hermosia?
Hormozi, I think.
Uh-huh.
And he speaks a lot about the hidden factor of obsession. I've never really thought about this until he started talking about it. Essentially, his whole rise to influence in a very, very short amount of time is he had multiple failed businesses, but continued to pursue entrepreneurship until he found success. And that's resilience. We would look at that story and say that's resilience. He would say that the hidden factor was obsession. He was obsessed with the potential of success. How does that? What do you see in that?
Well, what I see in that is unhealthy.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because like in a great book called Addiction and Grace.
Okay.
He talks about any addiction is negative. And this very thing he talks about, he says, we tend to substitute. So, like, even if you say, I'm addicted to God, and the problem with obsession and or addiction is that it's basically passive. It's basically saying that I don't have any control over it. It controls me. So to say that you're obsessed with something that sounds like similar to resilience and grit and so on, but to me, it connotes bondage.
So you see obsession and addiction in many ways along a similar vein.
I do. Now, it's a fine line in some ways, but when you think of obsession, where would the power be? It'd be in almost, where's it coming from? And I don't know the book, obviously, or the guy's theory, but just generally speaking, and I'm very sensitive to addiction, having been through it myself and been around it and so on. But the great sort of panacea is, well, if I just... like, for example, I don't know if you'd say addicted, but it was close to exercise.
Sure.
And particularly running. And so it started out as sort of an innocent thing, blah, blah, blah. Pretty soon I was obsessed with running. And so that's all I could think about during the day. And it affected, in the same way you talk about addiction, one of the marks of addiction is when it starts affecting your everyday life.
Totally. Yeah.
And it shouldn't, because that means you're out of control. Something else is controlling your life. There's a blindness there that's driving it. And that, what you're speaking of, is classic Machiavellian. The end justifies the means. So as long as so if you said, for example, I'm obsessed with this woman's body, you hopefully wouldn't, say that's okay.
Sure.
I mean, or whatever it is, you fill in the blank there.
Sure.
And so, like, he's in this case entrepreneurially,
he's obsessed with success.
He's saying I'm obsessed with that. That's what most workaholics are.
And he works a lot.
And that's addiction.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
So it's one thing to say I'm committed and I'm going to work hard. And it's sort of moves into that work-life balance, which, again, as we've talked about, does not mean that it's half and half. Balance means I work hard this place and do nothing here. It's a matter of your life. You're committed to, and this is another piece about that is unhealthy about that, making one thing like that basically is his God. I look to my God, which is obsession, to do for me what I can't do for myself. So that would be my first response. And obviously I don't know the totality, and but just based on what you told me. In fact, it arouses my awareness because to me that's a very... when I say dangerous, well, it could kill you, but it kills people all the time. When that's all you can think about. If you think about, take it out of that word and just say, well, what if I made it so that all you could think about was, going to Fenway Park.
Right.
And that's all you think about. But you've been trying and you're resilient and you have grit, but you've never made it there. And I'm obsessed. I'm going to make it there. But you never do. So your life has been spent on this thing. And the reason that theory is applauded is because of the thing that you're using it on. In a sense, I'd have to give it more thought, but that's my first response.
That's so interesting. It almost feels like obsession could be a tool for resilience, but you lose something in that pursuit.
Well, back to Gerald May, who's the writer of the Addiction and Grace, he would say that the worst thing about addiction is that it hinders your ability to love. And the reason that it does that is because whatever that object of your obsession is becomes your God. That's all you think about. You obsess about it. And if you've ever been around a person who is obsessive, by the way, there's a huge disorder, obsessive compulsive.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And that kind of message, that's why I talk about dangerous. That's a very serious disorder. And it looks good from time to time if you're in a certain place where it's really important that you have everything lined up. But then when you're around that, which I've been and seen it and worked with, it's bondage, and it's horrible, and it's not freedom. So freedom, and as far as a Christian, it's also important. Galatians 5 says it's for freedom that Christ has set you free. And then he goes on, in the context was the Pharisees and the Judaizers, the guys, the Jews that were trying to make the Christians into Jews by following the law. And the hope was in the law, and they were obsessed with the law.
Yeah.
Okay, and Jesus comes along and blows that up.
Yeah. Yep.
He says so to the Pharisees, you obsess over reading the scripture, thinking in there you will find truth, but here I stand before you, and you don't see me. I am the truth. And so that's some of the manifestations of that obsession.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'd like to see his whole story.
Yeah.
It smacks to me of commercialism.
Yeah.
It's kind of clever.
It is.
And it's like the next new thing.
Yes. I mean, I think they're taking something and they're trying to put a positive spin on it. So I think obsession is the new way to have a voice.
Yeah.
That sounds, I've never heard that before, That's super
power
unique.
Of obsession.
It's disruptive. I could say there's a really famous YouTuber called Mr. Beast. He's very obsessed, and a lot of people would look at him and say he's resilient and successful. Very countercultural of you to say that obsession is unhealthy, because I do think there's a lot of people that would pursue obsession thinking it's a great way to build resilience and success. Interesting. As I look at Paul, an argument could be made, but I want to see your perspective of his own perspective. An argument could be made that he was obsessed with getting to Rome, and that a lot of his journey and pursuit and orientation was to get to a specific place, and he had this lasered focus that was disrupted many times, but he was resilient in his pursuit of wanting to get there. What's the healthy version? Because I love the perspective of obsession being bondage.
Yeah.
There's something powerful there. That there's this fine line of like full commitment and focus and obsession. And like, what's the difference?
Well, I tell you where you start on that, as far as I'm concerned, is you start with Jesus, who he said, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. So I would work back from there, and I would suggest that obsession does not intermingle with joy, because your accomplishments are based on your everything. Jesus, who said, I have put my joy within you, everything he did was for the joy of his Father. And so Paul, who's emulating Jesus, maybe not task per task, but he was resolute, and there's a difference
Yes.
between being resolute. I am committed to finishing this project.
Sure.
Okay, but guess who's in the middle of that? Me. I'm the one that has to do it. It's not some magic wand that goes, I was doing fine. Then I just got obsessed, and all I can think about is finishing this, and I'm not going to be. If you've ever been around as somebody with obsession, and it's misguided. There's a great I don't know who makes it, but it's a perfume that is huge.
Yes.
And it's called Obsession.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And then there's a song about,
Yeah.
I can't remember the name now, but anyway, I'm obsessed with you.
Yeah.
And that's a romantic thing, and it says, I can't live without you. All I think about is you.
Yeah.
And that's called codependency.
Well, the irony in that, and you said this earlier, the irony in obsession is it inhibits your ability to love. To be obsessed with somebody is actually inhibiting you to loving them well. And I think that's so fascinating too, right? As I look at it, I wouldn't say in Paul's, I'm gonna air quote, obsession of trying to get somewhere, that never prohibited him from loving in the moment.
Yeah.
So there must be something different than obsession.
Well, and I think the difference is between that and addiction. Because addiction, you have turned over, your will is to get that drug, or to get that woman, or to look this way, or whatever. And so it robs you of your ability to govern your own life. And God made us to govern our life. We're held responsible for it.
Yeah.
But now I'm slave to this new master. And as he says, you can't serve two masters. You love one and hate the other, or hate that and love the other. And he's talking about money or mammon.
Yeah.
But the same thing fits in there. We are not designed to have two masters.
Yeah.
There's one master of all the universe, and the thing that he has done is made it so that we can serve him, but it's always voluntary. It's not if God wanted robots, if he wanted to have everybody obsessed, he could.
Yep.
And it would be horrible.
Yeah.
So Paul, and I think I've alluded to before, the idea of resolute and obsession. They sound similar on the surface, but one thing is Jesus says you can judge a tree by its fruit. Well, you can judge this thing by its fruit. What kind of fruit does that produce? It produces psyched out people that are burned out, they got the golden goose. Now they're sitting up on top of the thing. And I think about, like in sports again, for example, as you know, one of my friends and clients, John Elway. And he was very resolute. And if you looked at his life and training, and, I don't know, I haven't talked to him about it, but I wouldn't, as well as I know him, I wouldn't characterize him as being obsessed. Because when you're obsessed, you actually lose power, because you're not in charge of it. You're subject to some other power. And so when I think of him and his life, he was resolute. I'm going to do this. He had grit. He had resilience. He's focused, on the end. And being focused on the end doesn't mean you have to be obsessed by it. When you become obsessed, now it flips. It's like it now is in charge of you.
Yeah. I love the dichotomy between a world chasing obsession and punching through and saying, resolute, be resolute. There's freedom in being resolute, whereas obsession is bondage. And there's an ability to love in being resolute, where obsession not only mitigates that,
And you
but
can
potentially
screw
hinders
that,
that.
even screw that up, because then the one that you're loving, you can end up obsessing over them.
Yeah. Oh, for
And
sure.
if you look at a relationship, a man
Yeah.
and woman, that's a common thing where the one makes a god out of the other.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
everything is either based on me pleasing him or her, or he or her, she pleasing me. And it's an obsession, and it's insatiable. If you think, obsession doesn't have an end. It creates a world unto itself.
Yeah.
To say I'm obsessed by doing this. Well, when you do that, so back to Elway, so he gets 2 back-to-back Super Bowls. He's MVP of that, and all these things that should be okay, but
Yeah.
it doesn't end.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, there's no end to obsession. So I think for me, it's a great battleground for Satan amongst many, where he reveals himself and takes a concept that spins a little bit, throws
Yeah.
a little salt on there, a little pepper,
Yeah.
beats it and says, take a bite
Oh,
of that.
so good.
Ooh, I want more of that. Really? We're going to pay for it? Oh, yeah. Well, how about if you have like 5 barrels of it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. But do you have any more?
I think that's the thing with the digital age. You don't see the downside of obsession. You see this.
Great
you see
point.
the glorification of achieving what they've achieved without understanding the cost of which they achieved it.
Oh,
And
great
so,
point.
such a powerful way to kind of conclude this conversation is just recognizing you can be resilient in a wrong way. You totally can. Yeah, you can pursue resilience in a way that's unhealthy and destructive, or you can pursue resilience in good community with a firm standing hope and in a resolute manner. And I think that is, it changes so much about who you become and about what the outcome really is in the end.
Yeah.